Hello and welcome back or welcome to the channel. I'm Loudguns, and a big driver for me when I created this channel was showing people how they could beef up their in-game wallets, allowing them to check out Star Citizen ships without putting their real-life bank balances in danger. So I also like to keep up to date on what exactly is in the shops of Stanton, and 318 is looking like it's going to top expectations on this front. Back at the end of 316, I made a 3-part series where I detailed every ship available to purchase. But as new patches come in, I make smaller segments like this to tack on new vehicles that have been added since. So if that sounds good to you, then grab a cup of tea while I roll the intro, and then let's get into it. There are currently 3 locations around the Stanton system where you can buy ships with aUEC. Over at Horizon on Crusader, you'll find a small selection available in the Crusader Industries showroom, but we don't have any new additions there this patch. Right at the spaceport in Lorville on Hurston, you'll find New Deal, and in my title cards that will be marked as ND. And at Area 18's Plaza on ArcCorp, we've got Astro Armada, which will come up as AA. For me, the fact that you can buy ships in-game with your hard-earned aUEC is absolutely huge. If you're a new player or thinking about getting into SC, you might have remained on the fence with headlines of ships for hard currency running into the thousands of dollars. But really all you need to get going in StarCit is a starter pack for 45. Your in-game hangar will get wiped from time to time, everyone's going to be starting fresh in 318 for example, but it's not guaranteed to happen between patches. And with a little knowledge and a little grind, you'll be able to give plenty of ships a go. If you are looking to get into the game, just make sure to use a referral code when you create your account. That'll give you a bit of extra starter cash. So mine's the one up on screen, but if you've got a mate who plays, please just use theirs. We're going to run through the new ships for 318 in order from low to high, so without further ado, let's kick things off. And low is very much where we're starting with the Greycat STV, more commonly known as a Steve. That will set you back 12,000 credits from Astro Armada. And this is pretty crazy, because assuming you pumped up your balance a little bit with the referral code, you could probably buy 2 of these straight off the bat if you spawned at Area 18. So the Steve is a really cool little transport. It's entirely devoid of weapons, but it will get you and a passenger from A to B. And they're pretty tough when it comes to off-roading, as we saw when we did our No Sleep Till Lorville challenge. Given the small profile, which allows them to comfortably fit into a number of vehicles, they can be particularly useful for getting to and from hostile bunkers where driving a ground vehicle in will help you avoid anti-aircraft fire. The boot even acts as an inventory, allowing you to stash goods and swap things with your friend. For just 3k more though, you could grab a Drake Mule from New Deal. Again, don't be fooled by the low price, the Mule can still be incredibly useful as a vehicle for similar purposes to the Steve. And similarly, you'll find an area which has shared inventory on the ship. The downside here to me is that you've only got 1 seat in the Mule. However, the Mule can be the perfect companion for the Drake Cutter, the new advanced starter from the budget-conscious manufacturer. And it's almost like the Cutter's boot was designed exactly to take a Mule. Sticking with the ground vehicles but adding a lot more guns, we have the Anvil Centurion for 287,400 aUEC. This Atlas platform variant sits in the same family as the Spartan and Ballista, and much like the Ballista, it focuses on AA cover. The main firepower here comes from a rear turret housing quad size 4 laser repeaters, so basically it's a hammerhead turret strapped to the back of a truck. I'm really happy to see this vehicle make it into ship shops as soon as 318, since the power of the AA platforms has been pretty well documented at Jumptown, and I'm a big fan of such advantages being buyable with credits, not just for cash. However, the pricing of the 3 ground vehicles in this list is a bit of a cautionary tale, since the aUEC prices come in far lower than the ships despite the same not being true of their cash values. So the STV, Mule and Centurion retail for $40, $45 and $110 respectively, and that's an amount of money for which you could get quite a lot of ship. Also in the Anvil garage, but breaking into the realm of things that fly, we've got the Anvil Pisces C8 for 400k. This version of the Pisces clears up a bit of an anomaly. The C8's been in game for a while alongside its slightly punchier brother, the C8X Expedition, but was until now only available to players with an Anvil Carrack in their pledge list. That being said though, it's effectively a worse version of the C8X for only 6,000 credits less. All of the stats are exactly the same, but the C8X offers 4 size 1 weapon hardpoints compared with the 2 found on the C8. The Pisces is an excellent chassis, but go and do that one extra mission and you can treat yourself to the 406k C8X version. But a Pisces that really does deliver something different is the C8R Medical Rescue variant for 450k from Astra Armada. And I instantly fell in love with this medical profession starter when it was announced at IAE. And I'm incredibly happy that, along with some of the other names on this list, CIG have opted to get these into in-game ship shops so quickly. The C8R exchanges one of the original Pisces 2 drop seats and the open interior space for a compact medical suite, offering a single tier 3 medical bed for healing players and treating minor injuries. Medbeds in SC are graded 1 to 3, with tier 3 being the lowest quality and not providing respawning, but this will deal with a majority of the injuries players might suffer. It is also worth noting at this point that medical beds don't offer the same ability to log out that normal beds do. The small size of the C8R makes it perfect for getting into players in hard to reach locations, like flying caves, and it can be used independently or as a perfect companionship to the Carrack. Given its compact nature, I've also seen a number of players squeezing the C8R into ships like the Corsair and the Hercules, effectively giving these ships a tier 3 medbed. Another of my favourite new ships from IAE, the Drake Cutter, is now available at New Deal for 627,500 aUEC, and this puts it on a par with the Avenger Titan, which is a little bit more expensive. But it makes perfect sense given where these ships both sit in terms of advanced starters. The Cutter does underperform the Titan in terms of combat capabilities. It only has 2 size 1 guns compared with the Titan's 2 size 3s and 1 size 4, and its cargo grid is a fair bit smaller, so if you're looking for the pew-pews or if you're looking to do a bit of entry-level cargo running, maybe the Titan might be worth a look. But the Cutter offers a lot elsewhere, so it can comfortably accommodate a number of ground vehicles like the Mule and the STV, making it really good for running bunkers, and you can even just about fit a rock mining buggy. Note, I didn't say you'd be able to close the door, but the reality is that you can make gem mining work in this ship, which can be a route to big profits without necessarily having to blow anyone up. I generally recommend that all players have a starter ship of some sort, even if they own something bigger as a pledge. Starters can be claimed instantly with expediting, so if you need to quickly make a jump, it can be really useful to have one in your hangar. Now, this is where things get really interesting to me. So up until now, a selection of ships from a Masters of Flight series have been cash shop only. They've been flyable in game if you ponied up hard currency, but if you didn't, they were out of reach. And for some reason, CIG have decided to row back on this now, and the Avenger Titan Renegade is in New Deal for a little more than 1 million credits. In all fairness, the Renegade is effectively no different to a standard Titan, with 2 size 3 and 1 size 4 weapons hardpoints, 2 size 1 shields, and 8 SCU of cargo in the back. The stock loadout is a bit different with a ballistic focus, a gimbaled size 3 Mantis Gatling on the nose, and gimbaled size 2 greatsword cannons on the wings. But as with the base Titan, you can just kit it out however you like. So in reality, the only difference really is the skin, for which you are effectively paying 291k. Still, it's a cool skin, so I say fair deal. Continuing in the starter vein, the MISC Hull A is a perfect industry starter ship for those interested in trading. This is going to set you back a little under 1.4 million from New Deal. It offers next to nothing apart from its ability to shift boxes with 64 SCU of cargo. It's got a token 2 size 1 guns, but honestly, if you end up in a fight with a Hull A, then I hope your name's Jonathan Winters or Avenger One, because otherwise I sense it's going to end badly. The Hull A carries its cargo externally, with a central spindle unfolding to reveal the grids. And this can be really interesting with the new cargo refactor, particularly if you wanted to move boxes off something like a Drake Vulture, over to a cargo ship to take it to market to sell. I don't like to nitpick that much with the pricing of in-game shops, but I do have to say that I think the Hull A is a bit too pricey in aUEC terms for what it is. There's quite a lot of competition in this price range, with the Cutty Black offering 48 SCU and a lot more versatility at less than 10k more. MISC's own Freelancer base model is just under 1.7 million and it's got 66 SCU of internal cargo, which with its higher level of shielding and weaponry offers far more protection against pirates. Still, if you like the Hull A, you buy the Hull A. Also from the Masters of Flight series, the Aegis Gladius Valiant for just north of 1.4 million is now in stock at New Deal. And as with the Titan Renegade, the Valiant offers exactly the same stats as a standard Gladius. The weapons are a bit different with Omnisky laser cannons on the wings as opposed to the all-laser repeater build of the standard version. And to be honest, I don't factor stock loadouts in that much when looking at ships to buy, as assuming you've ground out the cash for the ship, the cost of outfitting is minimal, with a full build using grade A parts usually running for about 2 to 3% of the ship value. Again, cool skin effectively costing 260k. Again, in my opinion, worth it. The third installment in the Masters of Flight series is the Anvil F7C Hornet Wildfire. I've always had a bit of a soft spot for Hornets, even though they're far from a meta choice in Fighter World. Head to Astro Armada and you can add one of these to your collection for just shy of 2.25 million credits. Now I did say just that I don't care about the stock loadouts, but one convenient thing here is that the Wildfire comes as standard with the Veripuck turret mount, allowing the ship to add another size 4 hardpoint, which is my preferred setup on Hornets, so at least for me it's going to save a trip to the shops. Ultimately though, the Wildfire is just an F7C Hornet underneath the paint job, so that alone is setting you back more than 3/4 mil. And finally for Masters of Flight, we've got the Aegis Sabre Comet at a bit over 2.35 million. The Sabre was my fighter of choice for a long time, and I do still really enjoy the look and feel of those evenly matched 4 size 3s. But the taking away of one of the shields was a bit of a nerf for this ship. A little inconveniently, the base Sabre with its 4 laser repeaters is actually the weapons loadout I'd tend to go for, whereas the Comet's mix of 2 laser cannons and 2 laser scatterguns is less something I'd choose. So the skin not only adds 170k to the price tag, it also adds more shopping. But it does look pretty epic, to be fair. Now I mentioned in my last video that Starship maybe takes a bit of a steer from a certain well-known movie franchise, and the Scorpius for a little under 2.9 million at New Deal does give off something of an X-Wing vibe. This heavy fighter from RSI has been a bit of a sleeper hit though, with more and more players being drawn to it as the ship's been tweaked over the course of 3.17. In a comparable fashion to the Hurricane from Anvil, the Scorpius splits its firepower between a pilot and a turret gunner, and in this case each control 4 size 3 weapons. Please do note that you cannot slave the turret guns to pilot control currently, so if you don't have a mate to hop in the turret, you effectively lose 50% of the ship's potential DPS. Unlike the Hurricane, the Scorpius has a unique turret system where the gunner can flip between the 2 firing arcs, one facing forward and one facing backwards. While this can be seen as a bit limiting, these are going to be the 2 most common arcs, either adding your DPS to the pilots or fending enemies off your tail. The Scorp and the Hurricane are neck and neck in shields, both with 1 size 2, and the Hurricane has a slight edge when it comes to hull HP. But the Scorp packs a far greater missile payload with 16 size 2s as standard versus the Hurricane's 4 size 2s. Definitely one to try out and give a go if you happen to be one half of a duo. And finally for the 3.18 updates, we've got the Drake Corsair for 2,985,000 credits at New Deal. For a brief moment in time during the PTU, someone had forgotten to add a 0 to this figure, so you could grab a Corsair for less than an Aurora, but this price, putting the ship slightly below the comparable RSI Constellation line, makes a lot more sense. The Corsair is billed as an expedition ship, although the running joke is it might most commonly be found exploring other people's cargo holds. For an explorer, it certainly has rather a lot of ordnance, with 4 size 5 and 2 size 4 hardpoints directly under pilot control. There's also a remote turret under co-pilot control and a pair of manned turrets on the sides, all with 2 size 2s. That's an awful lot of pew pew, but the downside is that for the most part it all faces forwards, and the ship can be described as sluggish to say the least. So your best bet is to kill the thing you're aiming to kill in a single pass, and thankfully the Corsair does bring enough firepower to do that in a lot of occasions. The ship has a single size 3 shield, 2 size 2 power plants and dual size 2 coolers. Then the size 2 QT drive is perfect for fitting an XL1 for speedy traversal across the system. Inside you'll find a traditional Drake interior. The cargo bay can house a number of vehicles comfortably, and even a C8R uncomfortably if you want to add that med bay. There's a crew rec area with individual bedrooms for your 3 mates, and the captain's quarter is positioned just forward on the way to the bridge. Turret access and crew stations are all clustered at the front of the ship. I think the Corsair is going to be one of those Marmite ships. Just based on what I've seen so far in terms of discussions on our Discord, we've got everything ranging from Corsair fanatics to Corsair denialists, and a fair few Corsair agnostics. The unique looks and the obvious trade-offs in play with the ship will make it very much a personal decision. But that's just part of what makes the choices you have when it comes to ships great. You might like something that someone else hates and vice versa. So I hope you enjoyed this rundown of the new ships coming with 3.18 and that it's going to help you make some plans about what you're going to buy after the wipe. It was rather a lot more than I was expecting, to be honest, and I have to say I think it's pretty awesome that some of these ships, some of which have only been out for a couple of months, are already going to be earnable in game. Some people who parted with the cash might not be the happiest about this, wanting a little bit more exclusivity, but I think that getting ships into the in-game shops just massively increases StarCit's accessibility, encouraging new players to give the game a go and stick with it. I had an SC pledge from back in 2014, but I only really got into it in 2019, and part of that was down to never having a PC good enough to play, but another big influence was when I saw that I could try out and experiment with ships via the in-game shops. Sure, you lose them when we get wiped, but it doesn't really matter. By playing more you get better at the game, and grinding back those ones you liked next time gets easier and easier. So if you think I've earned it, consider dropping a like and hitting subscribe for more content. And if your friends, orgmates or your gran are curious about what ships they can get for aUEC, then share the video around, it really does help me an awful lot. With all that said though, thank you very much for watching all the way to the end, and I look forward to seeing you next time.